There is a risk that First Step could face closure. And actually what we're here for tonight is to start the process of ensuring that that isn't the case. Now, I was very fortunate because my second interview was at 9:30. And so I was here 10 minutes beforehand, and as we approached 9:30, the children started to arrive. And so I was seeing children who were being carried, children who were in chairs, children who were a couple of years older and they were still being carried in a 9-month baby carrier. And I saw children that were dragging themselves across the playground on their frames. But there was one thing that actually stood out to me, was as they arrived at that front door, First Step was a place of joy for them and for their families. Is that true, parents? If you go back to probably 15, 20 years ago, First Step was probably receiving best part of £500,000 from Health and the local authority, which funded the work that we do with children with special needs and disabilities. Does anybody else remember what happened in 2008? The crash, Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers happened, and essentially it's changed the world forever. And so since from 2008 through till March 2017, the funding has steadily reduced down and down and down and down. And so, as I say, I joined First Step in 2015. I created our a 3-year budget in January 2016, and we modelled it on 3 scenarios. One was that we continued with the same level of local authority funding. 2, that was that we lost half of our funding, and 3 was that we lost all of our funding. And we knew that it was a serious situation because we had our own fundraising. Michelle was our fundraiser and had been for a number of years then. We were raising a good level of income, but it's to actually add another third on the top of that is a huge ask for any organisation. So in March 2017, we heard that our funding had ended. We did run quite a vigorous campaign. We had lots of support from some very key people in the council who did their absolute best to get our funding back. I think it was, recorders here, is she going to quote me if I say? I'm going to say it anyway, hey? Publish should be damned, isn't it? That's a statement. I just couldn't believe how the local authority could remove funding for an essential service halfway through a term, such that the families, had we not continued to run the provision, that they would have lost their place in our preschools in March and they would have had to find somewhere for the last 3 months. We appealed. We represented, we wrote to the entire executive on it, and it fell on deaf ears, our funding went. Trustees were courageous, once again. I think one thing is certain is being a trustee at First Step is not for the weak-willed and the uncertain. Trustees need to be brave, bold and courageous at First Step. And they took the decision to say we will continue to deliver our services virtually unchanged. We did make some very minor changes just to make best use of cash, because we have a responsibility to make sure that we use every penny that comes in from our funders and donors in the best possible way. And so since then we have been continuing to deliver virtually full services, drawing from our reserves. There was no point in trying to go to war with the local authority. The local authority, Havering, is in the same position as many boroughs are, that the funding has been cut from central government, and I think I'm correct in saying that even now you've got a £30 million gap in the budget which you're still working on. Is that something there, right? So we're not expecting that they can return that money to us, and so what we're trying to do is to take matters into our own hands and do something constructive that's business focused, that will actually provide long-term funding for First Step. But here's the challenge, is what we've got to do is in the next 12 months we've got to be generating in excess of £400,000 to actually get through to that point. We have a challenge. Fortunately, we're not left with just one man. I don't know how many we've got here tonight. I would suspect we are 130 people, something of that order. And this is just the tip of the iceberg of people who really believe that we need to see First Step preserved for families for whom it is so vital.